Your presentations should be less like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and much more like Aristotle's Poetics. And that is my second piece of advice on how to deliver presentations. Because if you've read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's a great book. And towards the end, there's this supercomputer called Deep Thought. And this computer is there to answer the great question about life, the universe, and everything. And it spits out this answer and it says, the answer is 42. And no one's entirely sure what that means. And lots of confusion reigns because they have the answer, but they don't have the context in which that answer makes sense to them. And sometimes that's a lot like the presentations I think we've all sat through. You're given the answer, and even if that answer is right, unless you have previously created the context in which that answer fits in perfectly, then often that answer loses its impact. Now you compare that to what Aristotle said a few thousand years ago. He took his logical disciplines and he put them against drama, against narrative, and he essentially invented the study of literary criticism. And he said, when you get towards the end of a narrative, your ending should be both surprising and inevitable. You should say, oh wow, I just didn't see that coming. And yet now when I look back through the whole narrative, I see that that was inevitable. The whodunit moment. Of course it was him. Of course it must have been her. So, you know, spoiler alert, I mean, if you've watched The Sixth Sense, at the end of it you go, well, of course Bruce Willis was dead the entire time. Or you watch The Shawshank Redemption and the stone flies through the poster and you say, oh my, he was trying to escape prison this whole time. Of course, that is both surprising and yet inevitable. You know, Alice was going through Wonderland and actually all she ever needed to do was turn back home. The answer is both surprising and inevitable. And that is what the big reveal in your presentation should be. Your answer, your solution. Everything should tend towards that solution. It's like, well, a big part of that is also not putting erroneous details into your narrative that are distracting. So if you're telling the narrative of, you know, Red Riding Hood going through the forest, I don't need to know about what type of trees they were or the sort of, you know, how photosynthesis works or, you know, interesting sort of sidebars about the ecology of the forest. I get it. It's a dark forest. It's scary. Let's move on. That's all that matters to get to the end point. Or if you're telling a joke, think about a joke. A joke, everything in that joke needs to tend towards the punchline. Anything that doesn't should be removed. So let me tell you a joke. A man walks into a library and he says, do you have any books on paranoia? The librarian turns to him and says, yes, they're behind you. That's the joke, right? I don't need to know that the librarian, what he or she was wearing or, you know, what they'd had for breakfast that morning. I don't even know it's raining outside. Everything in the joke should tend towards the punchline. Everything in your presentation should tend towards a surprising and yet in reflection inevitable conclusion. And so, for example, one of the most controversial points that I would say is that never introduce yourself. Go back to the beginning of this video and ask yourself, if I'd spent the first 20 seconds of it telling you, hello, my name is George, this is where I went to university, and this is why I'm here speaking to you today, would that have distracted from the narrative, or would that have hindered? I think it's a distraction. Everything you do in your presentation should tend towards your punchline, towards your surprising and inevitable big reveal.